Hi African Queen family, how you doing? Yes, we are in town. How are you doing? I'm in the car. I decided to come and vlog because it's so noisy outside. We have a big problem with noise in this city. Actually, the whole of Kenya is very noisy. I don't know whether your cities are like this, but I think Mombasa. Today I'm in a bad mood, as you can see. This is my idea of a bad mood. I've been in a bad mood since yesterday. What do you think of my hair? I think at least my hair looks decent. Okay, so today I thought, let me talk to you about. First of all, I want to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for being there, for coming on board. So, guys, as I try to set up my camera so that I can get the right angle, let's see. I think that's okay right there. Yeah. So I'm trying to get the right angle for you guys, yeah? But I mean, like I said, I'm not in a good mood. Welcome to my car restaurant. This is where the economy has taken us. I've gone to get my cake, but I'm going to sit in the car because that restaurant is so loud. You guys who run restaurants, please don't put the music so loud. Some of us just want a quiet space. Especially now when we're going through so much stress. The last thing you want to do is go into a restaurant and the music is so loud. But I understand because you see it's the generation. You know, the young generation, they like loud music. So here I am. I'm having my carrot cake. Karibuni. I'm enjoying it for the last few times because, you know, I'm heading off very soon out of the country. I'm heading off. And before I go out of the country, I'm first going to go down to Nairobi, which feels already like it's out of the country anyway. So, guys, you know, today I wanted to talk to you. I don't want to waste your time. Today I just want to talk to you because I want to thank my subscriber, Mr. Teno, who asked me. There's a subscriber and I want to say hi to you. Hi, welcome, Karibuni. First of all, I haven't even welcomed you to my channel. That's not right. That's not the African way. It doesn't matter what bad mood you are in. You have to welcome people to the channel. So, welcome to a cup of coffee with me. Kenyan coffee. I'm having it from Cafe Suri, my favorite restaurant in Mombasa, and at the Nyali. If you come to the Nyali, make sure that you go to Cafe Suri. Really, really nice coffee. So karibuni nyama. Karibuni Mombasa. Welcome to Mombasa. Welcome to Kenya. When you come to Kenya, you go to Nairobi. Don't forget to stop over in Mombasa and enjoy the beaches and the restaurants and the lovely hospitality with lovely people. Now you see we have the port that has been moved back. So today I've decided I want to talk about a few things. First of all, you're going to see a little bit of footage. I'm going to show you because last week when I went to see my sister, actually about 2 weeks ago, but I went to see my sister, how time is flying. It's amazing. In Nairobi, when I went for my family event, I actually passed through Nairobi city. I could not believe how clean it is. The place is so clean. People are organized. I was like, huh? These streets. I'm just hoping that I'm going to get some footage on Sunday because I hear that they allow you to actually film on Sundays in the city center. I would like you to see what Nairobi has transformed into with what they used to call the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, which is basically, you know, the army, literally, you know, that got involved, you know, the military got involved. I think the government got so frustrated with the management of the city, you know, they decided to engage the military, you know, one of the military commanders to clean up the city. So let me tell you something. Nairobi city should be called Nairobi Barracks. It is so clean. It is as clean as an army barracks. Guys, do you know that I was trained the national NYS a long time ago? So me, I can salute for you. I can march for you. Eh? That's the reason probably why I'm a little bit more disciplined than I ever was. I think it's something that they should reintroduce for young people because it builds up confidence and it also helps you to get your priorities right. The only thing is that it shouldn't be conducted by people who are angry with you or people who feel like they want to, you know, exert some sort of vengeance on you. It should be a good training opportunity for people who come out of university. I think they have something similar to that in Nigeria. I digress as usual. So I was saying hello. This is my long way of saying hello. So I was telling us I was in Nairobi. Hey, the place is so clean. Hey, I went to the Huduma Center which is a place where the government has come up with this. It's a centralized office that is associated with the post office, because I guess the post office has branches all over the whole country, and people can access the post office. So I think the Huduma Center is kind of linked to the post office. It makes a lot of sense. So at this Huduma Center, you can get your taxes done, you can get, your passport, you can apply for any licenses that you need, car driving licenses, anything to do with government documents there, registration of businesses. And what I was so impressed about was the number of young people who are there working, offering services to the government. Guys, young people who are under 30, both young men and young women. They have come up with like a cyber cafe there. When you go in there, let me tell you, in Kenya, everything is done on your phone. It's just so impressive. I just love the Huduma Center. That's one good thing of this lady called, at that time she was the cabinet secretary for the Ministry of Planning, Waiguru, who, has her own checkered career. But one thing that she really did well with the last, the first administration of Uhuru, was to actually put in the Huduma centers. What it did is that it cut down a lot of the bureaucracy and the cost and logistical cost of trying to get any documents done. So for you guys who are planning to come back into the country, or for people who are not aware, how to apply for anything, like your birth certificates and things like that, that is where you start. If you even want anything to do with purchasing of land, you want to ask a question, they even have a lands desk. You can go and find out from the desk guy, and they have Huduma Center here in Mombasa as well. So you can go to the lands desk and ask questions. Before I bought my piece of land in Mombasa, I went to the lands desk because I wanted to do a search on the property, and I wanted to find out whether that's a good place to buy, or whether there's any problems, or whether the government has any problems in that area, any future plans, so that I don't make mistakes. So you can go there. So literally that place is just like for everything, from your IDs, Anyway, so I went there and I lined up to get my passport, because I applied all the way last year. I applied for it here in Mombasa. I lodged an application, and then I also got my biometrics done. Biometrics is basically the fingerprints and the facial recognition technology that they use now. So they, take your picture with a special camera or a special software that helps you to be recognized all over the world, so that only you can use your passport. Then from there, it had to be processed in Nairobi, and they actually ask you to indicate where you want to have your passport sent. So I asked for it to be sent to Nairobi, because at that time I wasn't really sure whether they would be able to send it back to Mombasa or where I was going to be, but I knew at least in Nairobi maybe I could send someone. Little did I know that you cannot send anyone to go and collect your passport. You have to go and collect it yourself, because they check your face and they check your passport, your passport photo, to see that you are the same person, which is really, really good. So I finally got my East African passport, and I was really happy. I finally got my passport, and I'm telling you, the professionalism that is here now, I'm so impressed, because you see, we have this thing called the Huduma Center. You go in there for everything, for your birth certificates, for taxes, for your passport, for everything, and it's so organized. There's a lot of security. Army guys are there, man, with their guns, and then we also have we have people who are so, very kind, very lovely people. I was so happy. I met this lady, and she gifted me with a pen. I was so excited. Let me show you my new pen from Qatar Airlines, from a lady. I think her name is, what was her name? I forgot her name. Oh my God. She's going to send me I think her name was Alice. Yeah. Anyway, her sister works for Qatar Airlines, and she gave me this pen. Why? Because she was not feeling well, and I got her a drink, and we had a chat. And now I'm sure she's going to start following me. So if she's following me today, love to you, girl. Thank you so much for my pen. I'm so happy. Yeah, so I have my new passport, and it's here. That's the new East African passport. It's called the East African Community. So I ordered it all the way back last year. I don't know if you can see it properly. Yeah, it's actually blue. Maybe you can see it nicely. Yeah, I'm so happy that I have it, because it's always important. Even you guys who have dual citizenship, you have citizenship in different countries, it's important to have your passport, your national passport, because the Kenyan passport is quite powerful. It allows you to travel in many East African countries. Like if you go to like Nigeria, for example, they'll tell you that actually you're better off. They'll tell you that you're better off with your Kenyan passport than with, for example, a British or US passport. So they're kinder. So Africa is being kind to other Africans. So make sure that you have your African passport. For those of you who were born abroad to Kenyan parents, or to Nigerian parents or Zambian parents or whatever, whichever country you come from, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, wherever, make sure that you always have your national passport with you. Okay, guys? So it doesn't matter what you have to go through to get it. Make sure you have all your IDs, every single one of them. Okay, guys, so now today I was telling you that I was not in a very good mood, but suddenly I'm in a good mood, you know. The funny thing, am I bipolar or what? I'm suddenly in a very, very, very good mood, but I'm hot. Oh my God. I need a fan in here. Why am I sitting in here eating my cake? It's because I have so many things that I want to talk about, guys. Huh? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, something came to my mind right now. If you're in Kenya, you'd know what's going on right now. That coffee is strong. I think it's waking me up. I think I was asleep. Let me just tell you guys something. I've laughed, eh? You know I'm laughing. Our deputy, okay, the previous deputy president, who is now the president of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto, he's so pissed off with his deputy because his deputy actually embarrassed him because of some behavior that he demonstrated when they went and had a meal together with some dignitaries and stuff, and the guy had absolutely no idea how to behave. But you see, you know, basically, I'm putting it very mildly. I'm going to probably put some information over there for you so that you can see. I tell you, I've never seen a president so mad in my life. He is so angry. I've never seen any president talking about the fact that he wants to teach etiquette, like how to eat properly with a fork and knife. But I asked myself, this guy is just contradicting himself. He should understand. He's actually got a hustler. This is the hustler government, bottom-up approach to the economy. So you expect that people don't know how to use a fork and knife. But I think maybe this guy went a little bit too far. He's reaching out to tables and other plates on different tables until you see someone come and bring the plate for him. And he's still eating in a kind of funny way and eating with the fork. The way you're supposed to hold your fork, yeah? I mean, I grew up, knowing how to hold my fork. But for him, instead of eating like that, instead of eating like that, he would eat like this. He would eat like that. No, 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 no. And then he would reach over there and reach over there. I'm telling you, man. But it's good to be tolerant of people. People just have no idea. Maybe he likes food. Maybe he's a foodie man. He was just enjoying his food. God, just leave the poor man alone. Oh my God. Don't make a national, mockery of the poor man. I feel sorry for him. I mean, that's your DP. Be nice to your DP, okay? President Ruto, be nice to your DP. That's your DP. That's your team member. Be nice. Don't embarrass him. That's not fair. Could have called him in private and said, hey man, can you temper yourself a little bit, or even just offer the etiquette course without actually mentioning anything in the public. It wasn't fair. So I'm digressing again. So why am I here? I'm here to talk to you guys because this morning I thought, okay, there's a lady, I think she came onto my channel and she asked a question, a very important question. How do I come back to Kenya? I want to relocate. I want to come back home. And I'm wondering to myself, some of us, many people want to run away. The reason I talked to you about the Huduma Center and the fact that I went for my passport is that I was so surprised to see so many young people trying to leave the country. And as much as I keep on telling you guys that, you should remain in the country and not leave and all that, the fact is that the economy in this country is very difficult. And especially if you're young and you have a lot of energy, it can be very, very, very frustrating, okay, to be held back or to have to wait for all these old people like us, to get our acts together. So you feel, that you're listening to your friends who are living abroad. They're telling you they're working in a pizzeria, perhaps, and they're earning a lot of money. and they're able to send money home, like for example if they're going into the Middle East. Other people we're seeing on social media, people who have come back from working abroad, and having built houses and built businesses and all that kind of thing, and done something with the money that they earned abroad. So you see, they'll tell you that, okay, I was away for eight years and I built my father a mansion, or I built myself a mansion, or I built, there's this lady who was working in the Dubai, I think it was, and she was working in the hospitality industry, and she actually built herself a huge hotel, okay, within the Kambani area. Yeah, I think Machakos, I'm not so sure exactly where. But I watched that, and I've been watching all these. There's other ladies coming in from Saudi Arabia, of all places, Saudi Arabia. Some of them come in coffins, others come, ready to travel first class. Just depends on your luck. But it's a real gamble with your life that you're taking over there in the Saudis. And they were actually making fun of people who were living in the US and the UK and saying that they have to pay such high taxes that they can't even save any money, which is true, because I actually lived in the US and I remember how difficult it was to save any money. Sorry if I'm sweating, guys. It's hot. I'm in Mombasa. But I can see, for example, in Dubai, it looks like they give you like accommodation, they give you an allowance for your food. So they try their best to make sure that your salary is just your salary, that you can take it home. I think that's brilliant, There's a lady that I follow actually, and her name is Nilotic Empress. She's really impressive actually, because she was working as a flight attendant and she came back and she built a house in Nairobi, in the city center. Not far from the city center anyway, and now she has her own businesses and doing very well with herself. And I think, we're hearing more and more of these stories, guys. So I think what's happening is that a lot of young people want to leave so that they can go out there and do something with their lives. Now, we have another problem though. So it looks like I'm changing my tune, aren't I? Because I'm the same person who keeps telling people, come back home, Yes, but you see, on the other hand, we have to make sure that we have responsible leadership. I find that our leadership are so unkind. I don't know why I feel like we have leaders who really just don't care. At the moment, and I'll come back to how I came back. At the moment, right now, we're facing some crazy crisis. Just within the space of less than a week when our new president came into power, he has increased the cost of petrol by quite a significant amount, okay? And, basically by more than 10%. It was about 159 and it's now 179. It's going to get higher. So he has increased the cost of petrol by more than 10%. He has increased the cost of, ugali, which is the normal maize meal, by a lot, literally. So people are squeezed right now. People in the transport industry have increased the cost of transportation by about 30%. Makes a very, very big difference, guys, because what's going to happen is that the cost of goods and services is going to go so high. When I say goods and services, I mean the actual goods that we're buying, because we're an imports country, and then the services that are being offered by people, because now, in fact, already we're accused in Kenya of having very high salaries. People are going to demand even higher salaries because they won't be able to survive. They might find themselves having to move out of their houses, going back to live at home, or, maybe sharing accommodation. But it's not something that we're used to, like here in Africa. Like sharing accommodation in Kenya is not very normal, like in the UK, for example, where you'll find that people are sharing a house. It's not so common here in Kenya. So most people probably will opt to go into cheaper accommodation, smaller accommodation, less privacy, more stress. So it's going to be quite a difficult time. So now going back to the question that was asked by my subscriber. Thank you so much for asking that question. How did I manage to come back home, and how can I reintegrate? How do you reintegrate back to the country? First of all, let me tell you something interesting. My life history is quite interesting, and one day hopefully I'll get some time to tell you about it. I did not come back home in a regular way. Like, I didn't plan to come back home. I was forced by circumstances to come back to the country. And funny enough, I came back a long time ago and my son was about 7 years old. And I had been in the US and I was working a job. I had a very good job with the university, and I had just finished college. So I had a business running on the side. And I was doing pretty well. I was even buying things because I knew I was going to come back home. I was, after all, studying to work in development. So I knew in those days we were very proud to say we're coming back home. And nobody even imagined the idea of living in those countries abroad. But unfortunately, when I came back was around the time of the bomb blast whether you guys heard about the bomb blast in Kenya, the U.S. Embassy bomb blast, the twin bomb blast in Kenya and Tanzania. I came back to attend my brother's wedding like in December. All my papers were intact. I was always very careful to make sure that my papers were intact. And after the wedding, like it was in December, I saw that my visa was expiring around March. So I went in January, first thing, to the embassy, and I wanted to extend my visa because it was okay, because I had this thing, that time they used to call it 1 year practical training. And my training was starting in November. So it should have ended in the next November. So I went in January just to make sure that I could renew my visa for the US, so that I can remain in status. So I did that. I went to the US Embassy in January. US in January of 1998, I believe it was, yes. And unfortunately, I found some very, very bad ladies there. The visa officers, of all things, guess what they did? They cancelled my visa. The visa that I had that was still legit until March, and I was going back in January, they actually stamped my passport not permitted to leave the country, or not permitted to enter the US. And I had no reason not to enter because I was a student and I was working. I was employed by the University in Minnesota, where I studied. I had my employment papers, and in fact the university wanted to process my green card. There were so many things working. I had a very good job. I had a job as a researcher. They cancelled it, these old ladies. And I asked them, why are you cancelling? Why are you cancelling my visa? I'm just asking for an extension. I've always had my visa papers all up to date. Says, well, we don't believe that you're going to come back to this country. You need to find a job first in Kenya. I said, but of course I'm going to come back to the country. I've only got a 1 year. And they says, no, well, you have to prove that you're going to come back to the country. Otherwise, we're not going to give you this visa. I was like, God, these people are so horrible, man. And they were really, really bad. I don't know whether you guys ever met those ladies at the US Embassy. They were horrible visa ladies. One of them I'll never forget. And both of them, by the way, were elderly ladies with very long hair, white long hair. And they were really, really not nice women. And they treated everybody the same way. And I remember there were even some Somali refugees who were there, inside the embassy. This just before, we had that bomb blast thing. And those women were treating people so badly and embarrassing people, and they were just not treating people well at all. I was embarrassed. I was actually embarrassed. Apart from feeling bad about not having my visa renewed, I felt embarrassed. Because what happened is, my son's things were in his desk in the school. I had my son's things in the desk. I had my business. I had 2 cars. I had one car already paid off. I had another car for business because I was actually doing, I was selling at markets and I was doing really well on the weekends. So I had another business going, and I was even hosting somebody in my house, a Kenyan lady. So, I mean, look, I had my life together in the US. Everything was fine. And this woman just decided, with a stroke of a pen, just to deny me my visa to return. And I was only going to return like for a year. And that really, really hurt me. That was January. So I said, okay, well, now I had to arrange to have, an attorney. I had to get, an affidavit, okay, to allow the bank to take my car. I had actually borrowed money from the credit union at the university to finance my car. So I had to get power of attorney to allow the bank to take back the car, the one that I hadn't completed. And I was making payments all the time, doing so well with my business. God, I was doing so well. And they were very, very sad for me. Really, really sad. There's nothing I could do then. Those days we didn't really have social media, WhatsApp, I couldn't go on Facebook, complain. So I just had to sit down and be quiet. My son was so traumatized. He was only 7 years old. All his books in his desk, all his toys in his toy box. For children, it's very traumatizing. So unfortunately, I was not able to return. So what happened is that during that period, I decided, look, after, licking my wounds, should I say, I decided I was going to look for a job. So I looked for a job, and I worked as a volunteer for AMREF for quite some time. And I also got another job where I was working full-time for another organization, NGO. And soon after that, I got another full-time a job offer with a company called TechnoServe, which basically actually was one of the best things that I ever did, to work for that organization, because it really built me. I learned so much from the colleagues that I had, much more than I ever learned in university anyway, but it was wonderful to work here. And actually, that's what introduced me to the coast. I worked in so many different so many different parts of the country, including the coast. We were working with, you know, poor families, and providing them with animals and, you know, dairy animals. And I was actually doing the evaluations and monitoring of that project and traveling the country. Fabulous, fabulous, guys. I mean, talk about, you know, God turning lemons into lemonade. So what happened, guys? What they told me is that if you get a job offer, come back and we'll give you your visa so that you can go back to America. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. I said, forget about them. But in August, yeah, I went back. I was actually supposed to be driving back on the day. August 7th, I remember, was a Friday. And I remember on Fridays is when usually they were in good moods and they would give people visas. I had decided I was going to go to the embassy in the morning. Then I thought to myself, forget about it. Let me go and look for clothes, because I had a job offer that day to work for TechnoServe. And I had my child in the car. And I remember I was at Jamhuri Estate. If you guys know Jamhuri Estate, at the junction, in my car with my son, just about to head off to Kenyatta Market. To those days, Kenyatta Market used to have very nice like stalls for clothes, because I didn't have any official wear. So right there at the junction, I saw so many cars flying back from the city center, like, and like people are like, go back, go back, go back. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. And then I drove back, and that's when I went to my hairdresser's place. My hairdresser used to have, in that Jamhuri estate, you know, it's an estate which has like townhouses, like maisonettes. And in the maisonette, she had like converted her SQ into a hairdressing salon. And this one good friend of mine had her hairdressing salon there. So I came out, you know, I went back and I went back to her and I said, hey, what's going on? Just to go back inside there. Sorry, guys, I have to adjust this. Sorry. Yeah. So I went back into the salon and I found the TV on, and there was the embassy bombing. You know, I missed it just by a decision. You know, I thank God that I missed it, but there are so many people who suffered. So, God rest their souls in peace. I mean, and for those people who are injured, so sorry. But I don't know why I had mixed feelings about that embassy bombing, and I wasn't quite surprised, just because of the way that those ladies were treating people in there. They didn't deserve it. Nobody deserves to die. But you need to be careful how you treat your hosts. You really have to be careful. Doesn't matter where you are and who you are. You have to be careful how you treat your hosts. So anyway, guys, that is the story. And that's how I ended up having to stay in the country. So I ended up losing. In fact, at that point is when now I had to hand over my car, because now I was away for like about 6 months, not paying my bills. They had actually been nice enough to wait for me, but they could no longer wait. So I had to give them power of attorney and, you know, get rid of my car. And then they moved the embassy for like about a year to Uganda. So I decided, let me just stick in my job. And I stuck here. And my son continued to go to school here. And it was a very good decision, because my son was very, very happy in school after some time, you know, and fortunately also had a very, very supportive family. And actually, I had a lot more support here in Kenya for my child than in the US. So after some time of grieving the loss of everything, because not only did I have my things in the US, I even had a relationship going. I started a relationship with a guy, and unfortunately it could not progress. It could not proceed. Yeah. So I lost my boyfriend. I lost my boyfriend. I lost my house. I lost all my furniture. I lost my cars. I lost my son's things, all my furniture. Guys, you know, I used to be one of those people who go buying beautiful furniture. I like beautiful stuff. So I used to go to yard sales, to people's, you know, garage sales, they call them. So I bought this fantastic furniture from a carpenter whose wife had died. So he had beautiful beds, beautiful. I'm not those people who go buying things new. I go and I try my best to buy things, you know, that are quality but used. I really try, because my mom taught me that. So anyway, so that was my very, very traumatizing experience coming back to the country. So strangely enough, from that period now, from 1998, I remained in the country, and I didn't go back to the US until I got that job with TechnoServe. And TechnoServe sent me for training after like about a year, they sent me for training to Washington, DC. And that's when I carried my son with me, and we went to Washington, DC, and then met up with my sister. And you know, it was a very good experience for me to go back. Then I went back to where I was living, that was Minnesota, and to try to salvage anything that I could find. And I couldn't really find very much. The lady who had hosted in my house, a Kenyan lady, I don't think she really looked after my things for me. Actually, I lost even the car that I had paid off was taken by some Kenyans. It was very, very sad. It was just a very sad situation. I lost a lot of things. I mean, I found that she had moved with everything of mine, and I don't blame her. She moved out with everything of mine, and unfortunately, she had even unwrapped some of the things that I had actually kept to move with to Kenya. So I had a lot of things in bubble wrap, beautiful lamps, beautiful things. She had removed them, from their packaging. And it was so disappointing because, I had given her a place to stay when she didn't have anywhere to stay. So those are some of the difficulties of trying to accommodate Kenyans when you're abroad, when you're living abroad. You accommodate somebody, and in the end, instead of them helping you when you're in trouble, they end up becoming the people who hurt you the most. I heard that she just parked my car outside, the car that I had paid off for Toyota. Just parked it outside, and it was just called some one of the Kenyan guys who, were doing mechanics, and told them, just take the car. Just like that. Just imagine. And then the car that belonged to the bank had to chase after her, looking for the car. She was hiding away with my car. You cannot believe this. The bank is calling me, we can't find your car. What do you mean you can't find my car? It's in the garage. Like, no. So guess what? The girl, instead of using the car that's even been paid off and it's a great car, she decides to use the new one, the nice, beautiful new Honda that I had bought, wagon, okay, because it's a brand new car. She decides to use that one instead to go for her CNA jobs. I'm sorry, guys, but this is a very painful story, and that's the reason why I'm here telling this story to you. Let me take a piece of cake and talk to you about it. So, my return to Kenya was not that smooth. It wasn't. The cake is, Every time I eat, I think of Gashagwa. The deputy president. You guys, you better eat properly, otherwise you're gonna be in trouble. All of you guys in Kenya Kwanza, watch how you eat. Don't eat greedily. Oh my God, this is so funny. All right, guys, so it's a long story, right? So this is what happened. So I came back and I decided to adapt. I think adaptation is extremely, extremely important. One has to learn to adapt to situations, If things are not going your way, don't force them. I worked in that organization, and after that, I applied for consultancy work with the UN. I worked for the UN for some time. And then after that, the consultancy, you can't do consultancy for too long, maybe about a year. After that, I started my own company. And after that, I went and worked for, because of elections. Elections always send the country back. After that, I went and worked for some NGOs. And after that, I went back into consulting, and I've always been in consulting since then. And after that, I've actually worked in so many different countries and so many different parts of the continent. And I think the reason is because of the attitude that I decided to take up. Now, coming back into the country was very, very difficult. It was very, 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 very difficult. All the way from applying for jobs, okay, because it looks very easy. It wasn't. When I applied for my job with TechnoServe, for example, I remember, I wasn't like number one. I was number two, okay, because they wanted somebody who had studied in London or in UK. They believed that this economist who had studied in UK was a better candidate than me, who was an evaluation specialist with the specific skills in evaluation. They wanted to hire an economist from the UK. Our system here is a British system. So people have confidence in people who have studied in the UK more than in the US. In those days, they used to think that. Many people hadn't studied in the US. Many people had studied in the UK, so my own father as well. So people didn't really have experience. So unfortunately, this person who they wanted was not available. He didn't agree, I think, to the employment terms, and they took the second runner-up, who was me. Yeah, so I got the job, but I tell you, they did not regret, because I worked, and I worked really hard and did a very good job. And until today, we're very good friends with the country directors, especially the one country director who was my boss for a long time, and he's actually one of my mentors and one of my referees on my CV till today. In fact, I've also got another one who's I met a wonderful colleague who's also a referee on my CV and has given me work also with other NGOs. So one of the things that really helped me when I came to Kenya was continuing with my linkages, working with internationals. So my bosses were always Americans. It was a bit easier to fit in. especially on a professional level, because I came in with a very different work ethic from the one that I found here. Over here, there's a lot of trying to suck up to your boss. Whereas in the US, I didn't really have to suck up to my boss. I just had to do my job. Literally. Here it was more about, sucking up to your bosses and whatever, whatever. But at least in my NGO, no, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that at all, because it's basically a US sponsored NGO, and they have a different work ethic. It was very good. I really enjoyed it. My son had a little bit of a difficult time trying to adjust to the Kenyan 844 system, or in those days, the Kenyan system of education. In the US, I used to take him to school in the morning very, very early at 5 o'clock. The child was up. I want to go to school. I want to go to school. The school bus is here. And I would take him to school very early, because then they would have breakfast. He was only 7. They'd have breakfast, they'll go to the gym, they have a good time, then they go to class, they read stories, they do puzzles, they use Legos and all kinds of stuff. And it was very engaging and fun for him. But when he came to Kenya, it was all academics. Went to one of these very academic schools, and my son all of a sudden started to show signs of distress and stress. And I found that I was spending a lot of money. In the US, everything is free, right? Or in the UK, everything is free, from transportation to education, everything is free. And over here, you have to pay everything yourself from pocket. It was really, really difficult for me. It was expensive, and I wanted to give him the quality of education he had in the US, but I couldn't afford it. So that's the reason why I went into consulting, to try to see how I could up my game in terms of the money that I was earning. But again, you see, when you go into consulting, there's no job security, and especially even in terms of the length of your contracts, they're not very long. So you might put your child in an international school and then find that you don't have a job in the end. But this is a risk that I was just willing to take. I just had to take it. So what I did initially is I put my son through those very academic oriented schools. Okay, then I found it was not working for him as an American child. Literally, he's an American child. I found it was not working for him. So because these are kids who have to stay in class to eat their break, they don't go outside to play in those days anyway. Their teacher, they have a very hierarchical relationship with their teacher. Their teacher is not their friend. Their teacher is bossy. In fact, I think my son had such a hard time in those schools. So I moved him into the type of school that I went to. I went to a Catholic school, so I moved him into St. Mary's, which is actually where President Kenyatta went to school. Yeah. So I moved him into St. Mary's, which is a cheaper school, even cheaper, by the way, than those private, highly academic schools, because my son was at Kilimani Junior. Terrible school for my son, anyway, I'll be honest. And then moved him to St. Mary's, which he absolutely loved. He had a great time over there. Now he could go and do swimming. He could get into sports. He could, he met children who were from different parts. Indian children, black children. The teachers were very nice. It's a kind of a more pastoral kind of community for him. It was a boys' school, and it was run by Catholic fathers and teachers. Very nice, very, very nice, with a very big compound. And in fact, what was really shocking was that it's quite reasonably priced. But after some time, I had to move him out of that into the international system, because now I was starting to do a little bit better with my work. So I moved him into the international system, and I vowed that he's going to remain there. I just told myself, guys, even if I'm a single mom, my son is going to have the same quality of life that a 2-parent family can give him. That was what I decided. And that was all the way into his university education. He went to school, to all the most expensive schools. Brook House, Hillcrest, Braeburn. My son graduated from college in Braeburn. You better know who paid for that? Me. Okay? Because I came with a work ethic from the US, which was really helpful for me. I had a very can-do attitude. Nobody was going to tell me that I can't do it. Yeah? So I looked for these consultancies everywhere. I killed myself. I traveled all over the whole world, and it was very, very, very expensive. Extremely. But I had to do it for my son, because I saw that my son was going to fall through the cracks. So for you guys who are traveling and coming back with your children, you have a choice to either put your children into international schools when you come back here, if you don't want them to go crazy in the regular system, or you need to look in advance, because now things have changed a little bit more. I think now the government has recognized the importance of building children, not just academically, but also in other areas. My son is academic, but he's also very talented with his hand. Right now, my son is doing really well, earning a 6-figure salary in the US in IT, because this is his area. He excelled in IT. and all this started at Braeburn, and I love Braeburn because number one, it teaches them discipline. Number two, they look at children's gifts. Number three, they have two different lines that the children, two different curriculums that they can follow. They can either follow what they call the B-Tech, okay, which is business and tech, and the other one, which is the A-levels. So A-levels is for the kids who are purely academic, and the other one is actually for the children who are more hands-on. And it works. So his best friends, some of them are teachers, sports teachers, others are into IT, others in business, others in... So it was fabulous. And then from there, he went to school in the US, and now he's working in the US. So I always had a goal that my son would actually end up in working and living in the US, at least in the earlier part of his life. So the way to return home is I returned, as you saw, in a way that I had not planned it. For you who is planning it, you are in a better position to plan. You can do some research in advance on the types of schools and the curriculums and the teaching quality and the teachers. Come and visit the schools. Come and take a, go to each of the schools and visit. Try and talk to the parents of these schools. Of teachers, parents of kids in these schools. And remember that you may not share the same values with the parents in Kenya, because parents in Kenya are very academically oriented. Most of them just think about academics. Most of them are like, does this school do well? Does it do well? I'm like, who cares whether the school does well or not? What I care about is whether my child does well, right? Yeah, is my child going to do well? The school can do well and my child does terribly. Or if you're lucky, then the child does well. Like my sister also came back from the US, and her daughter was a straight A student, completely academic, yeah? And she did very well in the system. Although still, it was very difficult for her because it brought her, it was very demanding on her and gave her a sense of anxiety because it was all about, oh my God, I'm going to fail. She's a top A-class student, top, like my sister, yeah? I myself am not stupid, I'm smart, but I'm not fully academic. I have two sides of I'm on kind of like in the middle there, yeah? So guys, and that's the average. The majority of human beings are in this 95 percentile normal curve. Yeah, we're here. It's very few people who are geniuses and real complete fools. Yeah, most of us are in the middle. So you have to be realistic. When you're moving to this country, one of the things that really worries you the most is income. How am I going to make an income? One thing I can tell you is that be careful about thinking about starting a business immediately. I'll be honest about that because you have to come back and find out the purchasing power of Kenyans is not very high, okay? Unless you have something extremely cheap to sell, which is really needed, then perhaps maybe you can do that, a business. But here, I think that if you can find a way to get yourself into international organizations, the better. If you can keep your client base, who is based in America, that's also good. So if you can come and offer a service that is not here, which is needed, like one of the services that is really needed right now, as I can see, is services for the elderly. I have elderly parents who are very lonely. And it's not just them. That age group of between 70s, 80s, 90s, they're kind of living on their own. If there's some way that you guys can come in and bring in the kinds of opportunities that elderly people have outside there, here, I think you do very well. If you can also find opportunities, people will invest in their kids in this country. If you can find something useful for children to do, people will pay for that in Kenya, especially things like tutoring kids, or offering like extracurricular activities for children. That would really work. Another thing that also works really well in this country is anything to do with beauty and health. So if you are like a health geek, a health freak, whatever, you can intervene into people's diseases and into stresses and things like that. You can definitely do something, even business-wise. So I don't want to take that video too long, just to let you know, guys, that the only way to come back home, just to let you know, guys, that there are many ways that people come back home. Some people come home and get stuck here. Other people are outside. Some of you guys could be outside there and stuck there. But one of the things that I benefited from being home is being able to integrate when I was younger, in my 30s, which was good, by the way. Even when I went back out to work again, I still feel, grounded and integrated. If you're coming back a little bit later, like in your 50s or, even later, you're coming back in here, you need to find something that gives you an income right from home then, because you may not be employable after 50. In this country, once you hit 50, it's like people will look at you and wonder, why does this one want a job? Which is something that is very discouraging because, abroad, you can work until you're 70 even, yeah? But here, once you hit about 50 and up to 55, oh my God, it's very difficult to find a job. unless you work with internationals who understand that that you're still employable. I think this video has gone way longer than I wanted. So I hope that you benefited from it, guys. And I hope I answered some of your questions. I don't think I can answer all the questions at once, but I'm still having my cake because I have table manners. I don't have to like rush it. So, I want to thank you very much for listening. And I wish you the best. And I hope that you're going to come back. One of the things that I've noticed from people who are coming back, they're having a hard time finding work. Don't be surprised about that. It's going to be difficult. If you can start your work search journey a little bit earlier, you'll do all right. What you do when you come here, just try anything. And also, of course, as you know, there's online work. You can decide to start at the bottom. Try and see whether you can start online work and start over there and continue when you come back here. If you can offer those services here. Yeah, another thing, of course, people can do very, very well in this country is farming, but we rely on rain-fed agriculture. So if you can find a way to if you have a piece of land, you can drill a borehole, you can grow vegetables and stuff like that, you'd be all right, you know, and especially if you can do it commercially and find yourself a contract, maybe with people like the Kenya breweries or people who are contract farmers who are sending vegetables abroad, you'll do okay. I have a friend of mine who's doing that actually. So it means that you grow your crop on contract, and then it's collected at your farm and you get your cash. May not be a lot, but at least you can start. The other thing you can do, you can farm chicken, you can do so many things, you know, in terms of food. Food is something I think that we absolutely all need. So before I continue rambling on, love you very much and welcome back to Kenya. If you're coming back to Kenya, for those of you who are planning to travel abroad, that's okay too, because you probably have to, because we have to have an income. One way or the other, you have to generate income for your family. Guys, love you very much. Bye. To-dos. Remember to like, subscribe. Bye.